As far as the title of the topic is concerned, I think it's fairly clear as to what the message is. That perhaps Bharat is witnessing a certain degree of cultural resurgence and renaissance, if I may call it, wherein after centuries, or at the very least after a couple of decades, it is beginning to wake up to its roots. So the title is largely derivative from the title of my book, which is called India That Is Bharat. Rest assured, I'm not trying to sell the book here. The idea is to basically say that there was perhaps a particular phase in Bharat's history where the very identity of being a Bharatiya was perhaps submerged under multiple layers of imposed identities. And gradually, at least over the last decade or so, Bharat is rediscovering its Bharatiyata, not just in the cultural sphere, but also in the political sphere, in the academic sphere, and in the realm of science and other places. Because whenever we discuss the contributions of this particular society, we typically limit it primarily to spirituality, religion, and whatnot. And the fact of the matter is, it has contributed across the board, including when it comes to education and science. At a time when we speak of a knowledge-based economy, I don't think there is any society which is better placed to don the mantle of a knowledge-based society, simply because Bharat has always been a knowledge-based society. In fact, for all practical purposes, we don't consider our dharma as religion. You actually think of it as the science of pursuit of liberation, so to speak. In that sense, it's a knowledge structure. That is precisely why you establish teaching traditions to pass on this particular knowledge structure, and therefore the origins of the Guru Shishya Parampara themselves can be traced to your belief that this is a particular science that can be replicated over generations. So, for all practical purposes, I think this is a society that believes in, how do I put it, seeking and belief going hand in hand. So these days there's a very fashionable statement that is typically made in the context of Hindu Dharma, which is that we are not believers, we are seekers. And we are people who are in the pursuit of the ultimate truth. I don't think it's possible to seek without an element of belief. Belief and knowledge, or rationality or logic and intuition, always go hand in hand. The tendency to bifurcate intuition from logic and to see them as two different boxes and in the form of binaries is largely a Western construct, where you think of intuition being devoid of logic and logic being devoid of intuition. But the fact of the matter is both of them complement each other. So I don't think there is a better system which explains this complementarity than the Hindu system. So the most popular example that I usually give is, while mathematics as a logic, unless and until you buy the premise that there is something called as the zero and there is something called as the one, it is not possible for you to build the logical structure over and above 0 and 1. You have to believe that there is something called as shunya and there is something called as unity for it to come together. So the idea that I have been trying to propagate, at least over the last 2-3 years, is that perhaps this is one of the rare opportunities that history is presenting in the form of a time window for Bharatiyas to rediscover their origins and their roots without being ashamed of it, without being bashful about it, without being coy about it. And the best part is, there is a demographic dividend that Bharat is currently enjoying in the form of a fantastic young population, which goes hand in hand with the explosion of technologies such as the internet and social media, which makes it possible for this young population to grasp and gather as much information as possible. But the problem is that the very same technologies could also be used for consuming garbage and filth. So that's where perhaps I think it's important for us to try and push them in the right direction.